Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour, returning after an absence because the UFC is back. We're talking about DraftKings pricing in a betting preview for Fight Night Zagreb. We are going to the east of the Iron Curtain into Eastern Europe, Croatia. This sounds like fun. What time does this start?
Yeah, it'll be like an afternoon card. So I think the first fight starts at like 10 in the morning, and then the main card will probably be around 2 p.m.
Is it on Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday. That's not bad, though.
I love it like this. Personally, I mean, wake up on a Sunday morning, you hang out for a little bit, all of a sudden you got middling heavyweight action coming at you. Always a good time. And the rest of the card, I know it's not huge on name brand guys, but it'll be big on excitement, I'd say.
Okay, so there's two things people need to know if they're just tuning into the Pat Mayo Hour for the first time. I don't know a ton about the old MMA. Starting to figure it out a little bit, but I do know a ton about daily fantasy. You, Cody Saftik of the Fight Network and host of the Bookie Beatdown, know a bit more about MMA.
Just a little bit.
You might be an expert on the subject.
Just a little bit more.
A little bit more, yeah, a touch more.
Just a smidget.
So you're going to find that sometimes I'm not going to be able to say people's names right. And if this is in Eastern Europe and there's some local guys on the cards, it's going to be a complete shit show here. So
there's a couple names on here that I struggle with, so we'll get through this one together.
So every time that both of us now mispronounce a name, you're going to hear, and we'll move on our way. The other thing you need to know, last time out, you had maybe the worst set of picks of all time.
The worst set of picks of all time. Yeah. You know, when things start to go wrong, Murphy's Law. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And a number of things went wrong. I think Daniel Hooker was the only person that came through. Everybody else got destroyed. It's worth noting that certain things like that Hector Lombard fight, we thought he would probably start off really quick. We thought he might finish Magny in the first. He didn't, and it didn't go so well for him. But in another universe, Pat, we're going to get back on track here. So I think we're 3-2 or 4-2 on the year, but
we're 4-2 dating back to the first back after football season show that we did. So hey, you're still winning 66% of the time.
Yeah, well, let's raise those right now.
Yeah, no one wins 100% of the time. I hate to reveal the curtain and show the almighty Oz, but yeah, no one's 100% winner. So let's get back onto it. Let's start with the main event: Ben Rothwell versus Junior Dos Santos. I prefer Senor Dos Santos.
Senor Dos Santos.
I guess he would be Senor Junior Dos Santos.
Drinking Dos Equis.
So Dos Santos is 9,700 on DraftKings. Rothwell, 9,700. The odds say that Dos Santos is a favorite, at least the betting odds, -140. What do you see happening in this fight?
Well, this is a super close fight, but I mean, yeah, when you look at Junior Dos Santos, historically, my God, why wouldn't you want this guy in your DraftKings team? He's got power for days. He's agile. He's quick. He's a big, strong, good heavyweight who's had success. He's captured a UFC title. He's done everything there is to do. And you know what? He's only 32 years old. He's still young enough, especially at heavyweight, that why wouldn't you want this guy? The problem with that, though, is he seems to just be so shot-porn. He's been in a lot of wars. He's had a number of fights that have gone, you know, I'm not even going to say not gone his way, just sometimes even in victory against Stipe Miocic or against Mark Hunt. Even when he wins, he gets hit a lot. When he loses, he gets hit a lot. He's coming off a knockout loss his last time went to Alistair Overeem, so he's damaged goods here. Flip side to that, Ben Rothwell. This guy's fighting the best fights he's ever had. So you got one guy's coming up the hill here, and you got one guy who's going down the hill. Rothwell is actually a little bit older, but like I said, he's hitting his stride now, and he has not taken nearly as much damage as Junior Dos Santos. But yeah, honestly, I will have to avoid this one. It's 5 rounds. You got 5 rounds to deal with, and you got heavyweights. That's dream come true. But one, it's so close that it's very possible that if you take Junior, you're getting it wrong. If you take Rothwell, you're getting it wrong. There's no really safe pick. And that being said, both guys are durable enough that maybe it's a first-round finish, maybe it's a second-round finish, maybe it's a terrible drawn-out 5-round fight.
And that's bad.
They've got to try to pace each other.
And DraftKings-wise, although you do get the extra 2 rounds of significant strikes, winning in the 4th round or the 5th round or by decision after 5 doesn't do anything for you for bonus. So you need to have that quick finish. And I'm going to start staying away, I think, unless the main event is a quick finish, or unless I'm taking an underdog in that fight. I'm just going to stay away from main events now.
It's fair because obviously that's the fight that most people know. So in this case, a lot of people look at it and be like, oh man, Junior Dos Santos, man, he knocked out Cain Velasquez. Oh, Junior Dos Santos, he knocked out the current champ Fabricio Verdum and the current #1 contender Stipe Miocic. He's the man. I want him. Flip side to that, they might be like, oh, Ben Rothwell, he's been choking everybody out. Good point. Stay away from it. These people are not going to get as many points as some guys are on the undercard. And quite frankly, yeah, they will be more than likely be some of the most played out guys, especially for 9,700. If you do have strong feelings towards one guy, that's pretty good value. I'm not going to lie.
It is. If you were able to identify which guy is the one, it's great value.
Yeah.
But you're saying there's a reason that they're priced this way.
Absolutely.
Next fight, Derrick Lewis versus Gabriel Gonzaga.
Yeah, Gonzaga, just like the school.
The Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Is this guy going to be a Cinderella too? Actually, he's a slight underdog at plus 110. Lewis is minus 140. Yet the DraftKings prices, maybe this is backwards on my sheet, because it's saying Gonzaga is 10,300 and Derrick Lewis is 9,100.
Yeah, so Derrick Lewis is supremely undervalued.
Yeah, what's going on here?
For reasons I don't really understand. Speaking of, we'll start with the Cinderella thing, because Gabriel Gonzaga 100% has been the Cinderella fighter. Only that moment happened against a Croatian, Mirko Krokop, in 2007. That was his bright spot. That was his moment. One of the biggest upsets in UFC history. The crowd was shocked, and he has failed to capture that magic ever since.
I want to point out to people, I know this is going to sound very evident, because most people own calendars, but to put some context on it, 2007, and this is going to make you feel old, it's almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In our minds, we don't think of 2007 that way. Yeah. But it was a decade ago.
You know when you always see those things where it's like, this was the Prime Minister in 2007. This was the highest grossing movie. And you're just like, good God, that was a lifetime ago.
Didn't that come out yesterday?
This is essentially a lifetime ago. He challenged for a UFC heavyweight title in like 2008, got destroyed. You want to talk about old. He fought for the UFC heavyweight title and got beat up by Randy Couture, right? So all I'm saying is he's not exactly a spring chicken, so to speak. His biggest issue is that he refuses to leave his own gym, Team Link, out of Massachusetts. That's his gym. He owns it. He's the head coach. He stays there for the most part. And that's hindered him because Gabriel Gonzaga in 2007, other than the fact that he's a little older and a little bigger now, he fights pretty much like Gabriel Gonzaga from 2016. And that's a massive issue for him simply because he's not evolving with the game.
So you love Derrick Lewis at 9,100 is what this sounds like.
Love is a bit of a drastic statement.
But he's underpriced for 9,100. Because if you take him and you think, he's the betting favorite in this fight.
Yeah, not only is the betting favorite, but when we look at DraftKings, what you want is a guy that potential to finish. And Derrick Lewis has massive amounts of potential to finish. He hits like a train. When he wins fights in the UFC, typically it's because he completely annihilates his opponent. And what I'm really seeing out of him is that he's making adjustments. He's making improvements. He switched gyms two fights ago, and I'm really seeing the results out of him. He's a little bit faster. He's a little bit smarter. His takedown defense is improving, and when he does get taken down, he finds a way to get back up. And that'll be the key to victory. Gabriel Gonzaga is a smart individual. He's going to want to get this fight to the ground. He doesn't want to hang out in front of a guy whose moniker is the Black Beast. That is something that he does not want to do. He will shoot a blast double. He will get the fight to the ground. Unfortunately, Derrick Lewis will be able to hit him on the way in. Derrick Lewis will work his way back up. Derrick Lewis will hurt him. Gonzaga will tire out. The longer the fight goes, this guy always tires out. Unless he can finish you quick, he'll tire out. And I don't really see him finishing, although it's possible. I don't really see him finishing Derrick Lewis quick, and therefore I think Lewis takes him out probably in the second or third round.
You said that there's some value for quick finishes and excitement on the undercard. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, so in terms of guys on the undercard that I think definitely have a potential, we're going to start off with Ian Entwistle. This guy's a leg lock specialist. Literally, he will dive on a leg and attack it immediately. Now,
$9,300.
Yeah, $9,300. I think that's very undervalued, especially because
he's a favorite in this fight too. Why is all the pricing off with the odds here? This never happens.
Yeah, I have a weird theory on the matter. Maybe you could help me out with this, but I don't really know. But DraftKings purchased Countermove, and Countermove, I think they're helping DraftKings out. So I would assume that they've probably switched up the way that they do it a little bit. To that point, all of these lines were released before all the betting lines. That has never happened.
No, it's true. The betting odds always come out before the DraftKings prices.
They
except for this week.
They dictate the DraftKings prices, right? For the most part.
Yeah, they influence it to the point where, oh, wow, when I look at it and I have... This guy's name again? Entwistle?
Yeah, Ian Entwistle. Enty.
Nailed it.
Do you remember when you and I used to do Countermove and DraftKings, and you would put both of the values down, and there was always glaring ones that was like, wow, why is this one so different? Well, it's because one probably has an algorithm, right, where it's like, okay, well, we punch in,
and both algorithms are probably different.
Exactly. So now they're probably either doing a hybrid one, or they're saying, oh, you know what, let's take the Countermove one. Who knows? But what it does appear is that they've got a different way of doing it. And as such, you're getting a couple of these where Ian Entwistle, the whole card's pretty much undervalued. We're going to get this when we get to my GPP team that I saved quite a bit of money on it. Yeah, because these people are so
It says here that you've saved $3,100. I thought that was like a misprint on your GPP team.
Yeah, it's just there's the people on this card, that are so undervalued are the ones that, could likely pick up a first round, second round finish if the fight goes their way. And I think for the most part, a lot of them certainly do have that possibility.
So Entwistle's one of them. Who else are you looking
Well,
at?
Entwistle's dangerous because he's going to attack the leg. If he doesn't get the leg, then it's possible that Perez takes him out. But Perez has been submitted in the past. Mexican fighter training out of the American Kickboxing Academy. It seems that submissions have kind of been his weakness. And with Entwistle, he's a one-trick pony. But against this level, you can use that one trick. So I think he can pull it off. Other people that I think definitely have some very good value here is Robert Whiteford for $9,200. I've played him on both teams, cash game and GPP, simply because I think he's, one, very safe. I think he goes out there and he gets the win. But also, the way he matches up with Lucas Martins is not going to try to take him down. That's something he's had trouble with in the past. I think he's going to put some hands on him. I think he's going to land some shots. He's going to hurt Martins. Martins got knocked out in his last fight by a man named Mirsad Bektic, who's a training partner of Robert Whiteford. Game plan will be the same. Crowd this guy, rush him, land some shots. Once he puts his hands up, take him down, work him on the ground, rinse and repeat, get the finish.
Rob Whiteford is $9,200 on DraftKings. He's also plus money on the betting line, plus 105.
Plus 105, it's near even, obviously.
But it's still, that's pretty good for a guy that you sound, I don't want to say sure that he's going to win, but you've made a very compelling case for him.
Yeah, well, I always say styles make fights, and I think when you use the barometer of a guy named Darren Elkins fought both of these guys. In his last fight, Darren Elkins beat Robert Whiteford, used his wrestling, took him down the whole time. Darren Elkins fought Lucas Martins and had more trouble trying to take him down, and Martins was more competitive in the fight, so to speak. Darren Elkins has no striking whatsoever. He's just simply a wrestler. So I think a lot of people, especially bookmakers and all that, they'll use that as a, well, you know what, how do they fight against Darren
similar
Elkins?
Opponents.
Exactly. What you have to realize here is that Lucas Martins is not going to shoot a takedown. He's not going to shoot one. And as a result, this fight is likely going to stay standing. He's a little bit taller, he's a little bit longer, but his style is head does not move off the center line, stands straight up, and throws long winging strikes. Where personally, I think Robert Whiteford, a little more short, a little more compact, out of a better gym, going to use his footwork. They call the guy the hammer for a reason. He hits you, he puts you down. And not only that, but his last fight, when he won Paul Redman, was another guy that Mirsad Bektic fought. Now Mirsad Bektic fights Lucas Martins. Now Robert Whiteford gets Lucas Martins. So he's almost just following the same path of his training partner of, oh, you beat this guy doing this, this, and this. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to use that same formula and have similar success. And I think he gets the job done here.
Any more undercard values?
Yes, Cyril Asker. I think.
Hardly knew her.
$8,700, Pat. I like this guy. Quite a bit.
$8,700.
Yeah. So he's fighting out of France. Obviously, the worry would be that he surrenders to some point during the fight, which
is very much on the table.
It really all depends if his opponent decides to just go around the Maginot line, and then if he does, well, then we're pretty much screwed here.
I mean, if you come down through Belgium, then you have a clear path.
Exactly. So we got to stay on the risque side here. But what I like about Asker is that he throws heaters, and I mean heaters. And he's got one heck of a chin, too. He will take one to give one. And I like that style of fight in a fight like this because with Jared Cannonier, he's 5'11", 235 as a heavyweight. That's small for heavyweight considering he could cut, I know it sounds crazy, he could cut 30 pounds and make 205. And 5'11" at 205 is still short for the weight class. At heavyweight, how many guys are below 6 foot
What is he,
at heavyweight?
Does he look like a stump out there?
No, I mean 5'11", 235 still looks good.
That's big, though. He must be wide.
Yeah, he's wide enough. He's not as wide as the last guy who fought Sean Jordan, but I mean, yes, he uses his mobility because he's a bigger guy, or he's a smaller guy in a big weight class. Because he's smaller and he's more athletic than these guys, he moves around well. But he fights out of Alaska. He doesn't have a whole lot of training partners.
Alaska?
With Cyril Asker, I mean, this guy's 6'2", 245, and I think that in the game of you hit me, I hit you, the guy with concrete chin and size is going to beat the guy with tin chin and is a little kind of undersized for the weight class, so to speak. So I think Jared Cannonier, you can't spell can without Cannonier, so I don't think he's going to have a good one.
So it's funny, you keep mentioning these guys, and obviously they make good DraftKings plays, but I'm just starting to run some parlays through my mind here. So we have, a plus 150 that you like. We have a plus 105 that you like, a minus 150. You can build some value there.
Absolutely. This is going to be one of those cards where, I mean, they're all such close fights to begin with, but it's one of those cards that you look at it and you're just like, you know what?
Something seems off here.
Yeah, some of these are going to go the other way, for sure.
Filip Pejic. Damian Stasiak?
Yeah, you got that one.
Who we going with? Well, because of Sean Stasiak.
I was gonna say it.
That's the right meat.
Yeah, no relation to Sean Stasiak, but we're rolling with him for that reason.
I believe Sean Stasiak is dead. It's like 50-50 when we're talking about old wrestlers, but
old wrestlers that you haven't heard from in a while, because they'll always resurface in TNA or something. If they haven't even resurfaced in TNA, chances are they died of a heart attack in the backseat of a car.
Stasiak is $10,000. He's minus 160. Will he be making any of your cards?
No, I actually do like Damian Stasiak, and I might put him on a cash game if I made multiple lineups, but I don't see him getting a finish whatsoever against Filip Pejic. Filip Pejic is 23 years old. I think that's young to be fighting at this level, so to speak. You can fight if you are a super stud fighter. 23 is more than enough. But if you're still working out the kinks, well, 23 is not that old. And when I look at Filip Pejic and I see the tape on him, he's very cocky. He's very arrogant. He's very, check me out, I'm the man.
Is he from Czechoslovakia?
No, he's from Croatia. He's
Czech Republic?
He's the hometown guy.
Well, when you said check me out, I thought that was like a good tie-in for him.
It would have been a good pun.
Can't do it. I wonder if he is from Zagreb.
Zagreb. He's obviously the hometown guy, and that's literally the only reason he's appearing on this card. It's not like he made the UFC on his own merit. It's that they were in Croatia and they needed some guys to sell some tickets. So as such, he's coming in. My issue is both of these guys fight at 145, and they're deciding to come down to 135. Damian Stasiak's not particularly all that big, so I think he makes 35 comfortably. He's a brown belt in BJJ. He's a black belt in karate. He's got a real good chin on him. He doesn't get knocked out, and I think he'll be able to control the action standing, eventually get the fight to the ground, leaps and bounds better on the ground. He wins all 3 rounds. Maybe, just maybe, he's able to finish, although more than likely, he controls all 3 rounds. Pejic, he's coming down to 35 for the first time ever. However, his body type does not look like he's a 35er. I think he's going to struggle mightily. I think he's going to get on the scale and be like, why did I do that? As a result, his bouncy aggressiveness will fade after 5 minutes. He'll have a good first 5 minutes. He'll tire in the second or third. Stasiak will come through. And I think Stasiak gets the win here.
But we don't think there's enough value to take it at DraftKings because he's $10,000.
Yeah, when you think about $10,000, it's not a crazy price. But when I think of guys like Robert Whiteford, who's significantly cheaper, Ian Entwistle, who's significantly cheaper, it's like, well, those guys are both better value plays because of price, and they've got a real shot at finishing, whereas Stasiak is more expensive and probably doesn't get the finish.
And the one thing that we do notice from time to time, people have an inclination always to use all their salary cap.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not making as strong a teams as they could because you're saying there's so much value on this card, and they'll be like, oh, well, I think Stasiak's going to win. He's $10,000. I might as well use him because I have the extra money, and you're just saying that there are better options for quicker finishes down the card with better value.
100%. The average person has $10,200 left. They look
Find me the most expensive guy.
Yeah, they look at Stasiak for $10,000 and they have Derrick Lewis for $9,100. Wow, I don't want to take a guy. I got the $1,000. I'm going to spend it on Stasiak. It's like,
and you don't need to do that.
Take Derrick Lewis.
And that's a great way to differentiate your lineup. So when you're playing in these GPPs against 2,000 other entries, this one makes yours unique. So if you win it all.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're looking for in these big tournaments. Anyone else? Because I'm seeing someone here is 10 or 11,200. It's a lot of money.
11,200. Well, personally, out of the people, I like Jan Blachowicz for 10,600. That's another play that I think is some serious value in there. Just because Jan Blachowicz is a Polish fighter, he's kind of used to the area, being that he still trains in Poland. It's not like he's going to have a long ways to come over, but he's got a good striking style. One of the striking styles he's going to be able to land. He's going to put hands on his opponent. He's got a great body kick, and eventually he just breaks guys. His opponent, I was going to have you pronounce it, but Igor Pokrajac, the Duke.
I stayed away from it.
So this guy fought in the UFC already and did not do good whatsoever. Did not do good. So they cut him. He goes on the regional scene. He fights a couple cans on the regional scene. UFC's coming back to Croatia. Igor, you want on the card? I want on the card. But they gave him a guy who's just outside of the top 15. Igor's probably just outside of the top 40. I don't think this one goes particularly well with him. I think Blachowicz puts him away. So for some value on there, if I'm going to be able to get the finish, 10,600 is expensive. But when you consider how much money you're saving on some of these other
everywhere
guys, we'll get to the GPP team, but there's quite a lot of money on the table.
Let's get to the GPP team right now for Fight Night Zagreb. Fight Night Croatia, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know what the official hashtag is going to be for it or the moniker. They change it like every week. It's very confusing to figure out.
It's something like UFC 200 will actually be like UFC 317 or something like that. Like, it's just, the number does not mean anything.
So your GPP team, you have $3,100 left on the table. Now, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Now, why is that? Who's on this team?
Well, it just worked out that way because these people had such crazy value. But the once expensive play, and I started out with that. I said, okay, who's an expensive play that I can put some money behind who I think will get the finish? Well, Jan Blachowicz. I think that not only does he match up really well with Igor Pokrajac, but it's not even just Jan Blachowicz. Most people in this spot would finish Igor Pokrajac because I think his body's breaking down. I don't think he's at this level anymore. He can still be one of those good old middling Croatian, light heavyweight / heavyweights that fights on that scene that can get wins, pick up a couple paychecks. But when you talk about fighting some of the best guys in the world. I don't think he's at that level anymore. I think Jan Blachowicz puts him away. Moving from that, we got Ian Entwistle, $9,300. This is GPP. We want finishes. Ian Entwistle broke the guy's leg in 1:03 his last time out. It didn't break. The guy said uncle before it broke. But 1:03 over a good former collegiate wrestling standout, that's leaps and bounds better than what he's drawing here. Will he be able to just dive on an Alejandro Perez knee bar or a heel hook and finish him away? That would be the game plan. And on GPP, I'm willing to take that risk all day long.
And so you have Entwistle, you have Whiteford and Lewis on both teams, and Blachowicz, right?
Yeah. The one small adjustment I could potentially make is on my cash team, I could take Ian Entwistle out, who I do think he gets the win. There's a little bit of risk there. I could take him out and put a guy named Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, 5-0, making his UFC debut. This guy's 6'5", 265 with an 80-inch reach. He is gigantic. On top of that, he's a former state wrestling standout out of Illinois. He's got a good wrestling pedigree. He's 25 years old. He is gigantic. I'm just not sold that he gets the finish, which is why I didn't play him. But if a cash game, I don't really care. I just need him to get this win here. And so Curtis Blades might be the one switch out for Andy Entwistle.
But on your cash team, you paid up to the most expensive player.
On my cash game, I took Taysumov because he's very, very safe, I would say. He's the second biggest favorite on the card next to Jan Blachowicz, which I, by the way, was able to afford as well. But it's the fact that he's safe. I don't think he gets the finish. It's possible, but I think it's probably a 3-round decision. And after 3 rounds, let's say he scores 70 points. I didn't want to pay that much money for a guy who's going to get 70 points. But in a cash game, on a card like this, where there will be some guys that score 0 points and screw you, he's worth having on the cash.
He's the safety that you want to have as your rock of a 50-50 double-up. So people don't know, again, cash games, half the field wins.
Yes.
So you're not trying to be the 1% lineup. You're just trying to be the 47th percentile lab. It's nice if you win, but there's no difference in a 100-man tournament. There's no difference between coming in first or 47th.
And what ends up happening is if you can get all 5 guys to get the win, and you
win.
know, exactly, right? Whereas some people will be like, well, you know what? I'll pick against Derrick Lewis on one of them. It's just like, okay, well, that one loss where your guy got knocked out in a minute, Gabriel Gonzaga got taken out in a minute, that one loss pretty well breaks your entire roster. So for that reason, on a cash game, I'd play Taysumov. But on that GPP, Blachowicz is fairly cheap at $10,600, and we like him. And then you got Ian Entwistle, Robert Whiteford, and Derrick Lewis at $91, $92, and $9,300 respectively. That's pretty crazy value. And then the fact that you get Asker, I would have played Asker regardless of his price on a GPP, because he is to me like a quintessential GPP player.
He's boom or bust.
Yeah, he's going to go in there and he's going to literally make this a dirty fight, and I think that he prevails in a dirty fight. His next fight in the UFC, he might get clowned. His fight after that, he might be clowned, and then he might be cut. But against Jared Cannonier, this guy fought once in the UFC, all right, Pat? He got knocked out in 2 minutes. Instead of getting back on the horse, he took 16 months off. So I don't exactly think that he's in the best spot in his career. I think he's a little bit chinny. And as I mentioned, if you're going to get concrete chin versus tin chin, sign me up for the one made of concrete.
Cody Safik, check him out, and Paul Shaughnessy on the Bookie Beatdown, a more extensive preview of every single match, breaking everything down. Plus, they have visuals, so that's always nice, too.
It's fun.
Takes a lot of time to put together, though. This one is a bit more just focused on the daily fantasy.
This has got better boards. We really got to up our board game.
I'm actually thinking about changing my boards.
Really?
Yeah.
Send them over.
I'm thinking, yeah, you can use my old ones. Anyway, that's going to do it on the Pat Mayo Hour. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter. Sorry if there's too much golf on your feed right now, because it's Masters Week. I mean, I'm doing a lot of golf, too. But it's nice to get back on the UFC horse. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Hour on every single multimedia platform. And that'll do it. I'm Pat Mayo, and I'll see you next time.